The subjects for this video will be ranked through a tier list, with the first tier entitled Boston Wikis, reserved for the strongest keepers in this roster. The fifth tier, on the other hand, entitled Flynn and Isle Grows, will be reserved for the weakest candidate. Tiers 2 to 4 are considered strong, average, and weak, respectively. In honor of Halloween, I will begin the rankings with characters that are spooky adjacent. Starting with none other than a weak start to the ranking. He would definitely use the resources provided for him, but given his recklessness and biblical levels of squandering, he'd be left starving come the second month. That's on if he's working alone. However, if he was in a pair or a team of 3, then his other wikis would have to keep him in check, and given his pathetic nature, I feel like it could work. His final tier is a solid 4, give or take. A hard 5, he would go insane. He will most likely set himself on fire with a thing of lamp oil and leave the lighthouse in dire condition. If he was working alongside his brother, Liu, then he could have a fighting chance, but I don't entirely trust him on that honestly. Overall, he's completely and utterly unfit for the job.
I tell you what though, folks, that's bloody nice.
A surprising case, but I fully believe that he could accomplish at least one cycle of manning the lighthouse if he tries really hard. He may not look like it considering his consumptive aura, but that's why I only mentioned one cycle, roughly 28 days. He's noble born at the end of the day, so I couldn't really expect much. He'd also probably develop even more anxiety. His final score would be 4, slightly higher than the Wunsler's.
The fuck? The fuck? The fuck is in the air. The fuck? There's white shit everywhere.
The first 2 in the list. He's canonically a tinker, so it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think of him fixing any machinations within the lighthouse. He'd be used to the environment too, however he might try to use this job as an opportunity to scare other wikis should he work with 1 or 2 people. He's highly efficient in individual work, but he'll want to work with others.
Skip. But when does this game get fucking good?
I'll be honest, he'll probably die. He might be the first death within the roster, that is, if he works alone. If he was with other lighthouse keepers, then he could most probably manage. He'll most likely have a higher efficiency compared to Victor, but the higher efficiency does not a good wiki make. He'll be one of the weakest against the elements too. At most he'll be 3, an average.
Oh God, they try to drown me in this hole! I cannot see!
Another candidate in the second tier. I'm well aware that he's the literal personification of darkness, but if you know him, you know he could work a lighthouse. The only thing that's holding him back from being a Boston wiki is that there's little to no internet connection in lighthouses. I wouldn't say that he'd go unstable, but he would probably be extremely bored or quit.
Because tonight will be the night that I will fall for you.
He wouldn't last in my opinion. It's just hard to see him survive in such an environment. He'd need refurbishments of human blood, which would make it hard for him to work in a trio, let alone a pair. A definitive 5, apologies for being prick.
Johnny and the farmer? They were... And then
I can see an entire arc of him undergoing the ups and downs of lighthouse manning. He would definitely struggle at first, though he might get used to it over time. He's canonically tied to modern technology, but I feel like he could be a character that uses his tech more for communication purposes. It's unfortunate that the twins aren't the ones in this roster, because they would be immediate Boston wikis. For Kurate, however, he'd just be another 2.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
He might just be average. Out of all of the online attached characters in this list, he's the one that feels the most unrealistic when it comes to detaching him from his online space. I'll give him credit, he does have initial qualifications in terms of mechanics, plus, he has other hobbies outside of the internet which is great for stability and morale. It's a toss-up on whether or not he'd thrive in a group though.
Why does the sun go down at night? Is everyone in the kingdom one?
Initially, I thought that he could be a decent lighthouse keeper. But, the more I think about it, the more I think otherwise. His knowledge could contribute to recording the weather and environment, but I don't think he's willing and able to offer help in any construction work in the lighthouse itself. His expertise isn't for this. He'll be in for.
What color is my shirt?
Tienes una camisa roja y una pinche cabezota.
I'll give him the honor of being the very first Boston Witchy for this lineup. Especially since he's practically a lighthouse himself. He looks like he's both literally and figuratively built for this line of work. It's very fascinating. Out of all of the candidates, he'd be the one to actually accomplish all of the responsibilities without losing his sanity, both in individual cases or in groups. Granted, he could have a learning curve, but he can most likely adapt.
Behind you! Look!
Oh my god!
No, he wouldn't stand the job. The confining nature of the work plus all of the needed duties he has to stand by would drive him insane. He would be one of the first subjects to quit. Maybe the situation could be different if he was in a group, but I'm not hopeful on that. He'll fly away as a flun and I'll grow. For the love of all that is good, I hope this thing fucking dies. And honestly, he might just do so because he's completely incapable of anything should he be left by himself. He's deadweight. If he's placed in a group he'd just act demure to ensure that he won't do any messy work. It's twisted. It should be a crime for how much he horrifies me. He's going straight to tier 5 and to the depths of hell because holy shit. He'd make it work. Similar to Pinocchio, he would be one of the more efficient ones. However, similar to Howl, I don't think he'd like the monotony of working at the lighthouse for all hours of the day. He would try his best to endure it, but he'd much prefer working in a pair or in a trio. It's understandable enough, so I'll put him in the first tier.
Archangel Gabriel from Mandela. Oh wait, what the fuck? Why am I here?
He wouldn't make a good keeper and that's just the plain truth. If he had the power to, he would actively work against the witches that are on shift. However, there's limited cell service in lighthouses, and if we consider lighthouse keeping from 100 years ago then he'd probably have the spiritual advantage, but nowadays he's hopeless. Though, he might just work as evil through the use of the Fresnel lens. He'll be a 4, at best. In conclusion we have the Boston Witches with Pinocchio and Ozra. The strong tier with Jack Skellington, XXX Shadowlord 420XXX, and Kurate. The average tier with Sebastian and Gary. The weak tier with Angel Gabriel, Cedric, Victor, and the Wunsler. And finally, the Flynn and Isle Crows with Howl, Jeffrey, Vampire, and the Twink. This is the final result for this ranking. All in all, it is in my humble opinion that each candidate is in their rightful place within the tier. I'll admit, I haven't fully examined the extent of their background, only their personalities and interests, so I may or may not be hitting the mark in some areas. Either way, Thank you everyone for joining me during this analysis, and remember gentlemen, if a twink is stealing your husband, look them dead in the eyes and tell them, sure you can steal my husband, but can you man a lighthouse?